Most brands think AI customer service is about reducing headcount. The brands that are actually winning with AI, they're using it in a different way.
It's actually a philosophy of running the company. It's not just like a cute project or let's build a chatbot or how can we run as a company on AI.
Andrei Negrau is the co-founder and CEO of Siena AI, the platform turning your support inbox into a real-time intelligence engine. Brands using Siena aren't just answering tickets faster. They're making product decisions, launching win-back campaigns, and generating millions in revenue, all from the data hiding in their customer conversations.
In the old world, that triggers some Klaviyo flow or, Jay, I saw you canceled your subscription. I would like to offer you a discount. You can ask it to finding the needle in the haystack. Give me a list of customers that reached out to cancel their subscription, but categorize them based on the reasons. So if you have like 100 customers, hours, you have to manually go and like export customers, go see what they said, probably more like days. It's like an oil well. You can dig for oil and oil comes out of it. The question is, how do you make this oil actually useful?
Can it detect if it's an AI created video? Because apparently everyone's just making images and videos of their products broken to get a refund.
If a human could, the AI could as well. Sometimes maybe even better.
Most brands I talk to, they think AI customer service is about reducing headcount. How can we put in AI to have less people on our support team, less cost? But the brands that are actually winning with AI, they're using it in a different way. They're using it as real-time intelligence on their products, how their customers talk about it. It's actually becoming a bit of an intelligence layer that's changing how they run their company, not just product decisions, but inventory, marketing copy. It's all driven by what the AI is hearing in support conversations. And this is something that I think not enough people are talking about, which is why I wanted to bring my guest on today. He's the co-founder and CEO of Siena, which is, some people say AI support, but it is so much more than that, which is what I'm excited to dive into, because I know probably 95 or more percent of the brands I talk to are not using AI as much as they could be. So Andrei, thank you so much for being here. First of all, you want to give a little quick background on you and Siena, and then we'll jump right into it.
I'm excited to be here. Thanks for the invite and super excited to dig in.
So we had Lisa from Siena back on the podcast about a year and a half ago. And so a lot of people listening right now may not have heard that episode. It was actually episode number 1. And it was awesome. I don't have the rankings up, but it was one of our top episodes, probably because it's the first one. I think a lot of people go back and they listen to the first episode in the series, but it just feels like the world of AI is changing so fast. And already I remember things we talked about in that episode. It feels like a lifetime ago. And I know so much has changed with Siena since then, but what's the biggest shift you've seen in how merchants think about AI and AI in the customer experience from about a year and a half ago till now?
A year and a half ago sounds like a decade ago.
Well, year to 2 years ago.
It just sounds like a decade ago.
I know.
So it's really interesting what we see happening. It's almost like a pretty big division in terms of companies. And, you've probably heard this term AI native. Let's just use AI native for the purpose of this podcast. AI native doesn't just mean the usage of tools. It's also what we see as actually a philosophy of running the company. So in the last year and a half, I think the biggest shift happened on a more philosophical / structural / operational level, where it's not just like a cute project or like hey, let's build a chatbot on our site, but really we see brands, irrespective of their size, become a lot more intentional about the way they think about AI in the general sense of deploying AI in the company. And that's been incredibly exciting to see. A year and a half ago, you can imagine this diffusion. I think most recently people call this like the diffusion layer. How do you embed AI in different parts of your business was quite immature. Again, very limited number of use cases. You can think about content creation. It was already quite there, or support automation. But now we're seeing more as can we run as a company, or how can we run as a company on AI? And then by asking that question, then as a Shopify brand, as a company in general, it doesn't really matter what you're doing as long as you exist in the digital realm.
Right.
You start thinking about different avenues or different ways you can embed AI in your workflows. And I think that's the biggest shift, because the tools are here. Like, we've seen a massive wave of tools being created. The models get better. Although the model, if you're like following the latest models, the progress, I wouldn't say stop, but it's definitely a lot slower than it was 2 years ago or a year and a half ago, where you have like new models almost every month. Now it's like, yes, there's models out there, but we have today's models are already quite good for most tasks. So it's just really a question of, in a company, who assumes ownership over AI in general, like, and then how do you create a culture where people are excited about AI? I'm always excited about seeing this firsthand by talking to our customers, by talking to brands, by seeing what's on their mind. But it's really exciting because the folks that come to us and want to partner with us, they know they have a pretty good idea of what they want to do. They're treating AI as a real thing, not just like an experiment. So that's changed quite a lot in the last year and a half, like their just philosophy about AI.
Yeah. What percentage of stores would you say that you talk to are still treating AI as a cost cutting tool versus a growth tool? Like, where's the breakdown in that?
I would say that in the beginning phases of AI for customer experience, most companies see it as a cost cutting tool, or as
Mhm.
in, maybe it's not cost per se, but it's an efficiency gain. Because what we also saw, we have some pretty fun story with brands that joined and implemented Siena, let's say a year ago, when they were doing 25 million a year. So, just on that upward trajectory. And now they scaled up to hundreds of millions in the span of a year. So
Right.
they didn't really come to us to cut costs per se, but they came to us because they wanted to not having to grow their teams and their processes and their overhead linearly. So we see a lot of folks do that and they do it really well. And I think that's one of those misconceptions where like, hey, customer service AI, it's like replacing or like, it's cutting jobs. I think that, thankfully the brands that we work with are growing really fast. So we
Mm.
rarely see someone just like go from, you pick a number to like cut 90% of their support. It's really the opposite, which with their support team stays, but they stay intact because their business grows. So it's more
Right.
of an offset mechanism that allows you to just move so much faster because now you have AI that Sienna running, 60, 70, 80% of your support interactions or even more.
Yeah. So tell me about, like, what are some of the best brands? How are they using AI with customer support, not just for answering tickets, but what are some of like the exciting ways they're using it to grow their company and improve operations or improve their marketing, their product? Like, any other besides, okay, answering tickets is one thing, but what are some other ways they're using it?
Yeah. So there's in the ecosystem of agents that we're building, there's the agent that resolves customer conversations. That's our flagship customer service agent. We've been running this agent for more than 3 years now. We've been, I think, the first company to build an agent using large language models. So that's one agent that already works really well. It's scalable, works in the enterprise. And the other agent that we're seeing now brands really leverage. And just before this podcast, I was here in this room with one of our brands, and we're brainstorming ideas. How can we use the data that Sienna already
Mhm.
have with this new agent? So this other agent is part of what we call Sienna Intelligence, which is our up and coming platform. If you think about Cloud Code for CX, that's what Ask Sienna is. So a lot of novel ideas or a lot of new use cases are spinning out by using this addition, like the second agent of ours called Ask Sienna. So just for those of you that are new to Sienna and hearing it for the first time, it's basically an agent that sits on top of your stack, starting with your support data, so all your conversation data, your reviews data, your social media data, your Shopify data, and now we're bringing more data sources like subscription data. So we really are building this brain that's all powered by, of course, the best agent, the latest model. So the question that we've been just discussing an hour ago with this brand is how, what are some of the things that we can do to retain our customers? Because Sienna has already that, like, we already know how many customers reach out to cancel a subscription, for example. Sienna knows that. You can easily ask Sienna, hey, give me a list of all the customers that reached out in the last 7 days to cancel their subscription. And then
Through the support ticket.
through a support conversation. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
what's really interesting is, of course, there's various different agents doing various different tasks. In today's day and age, you can even ask probably Cloud Code to connect it with your Zendesk or to connect it with your help desk. But the challenge there, or the thing that we solved with this product, is we've built a pipeline that allows us to essentially filter or like thread the signal out of the noise. In customer service data, it's one of those things that it's really messy. If you
Mhm.
think about take any brand, most of the conversations are either repetitive or there's just a lot of noise that bears the signal. So what we've been able to do is we've built a whole pipeline that allows us to filter and only give you the real signal that matters based on what you care at that specific point in time. So for example, Ask Siena is really good at finding the needle in the haystack. So you can actually ask it, hey, can you go and check out who are this give me a list of customers that reached out to cancel their subscription. But you can actually get quite creative, because then you can say, but categorize them based on the reasons. So imagine you can do anything. Once that data is there, you can ask it to do anything. And one of the cool things that we've been discussing about just recently was the idea of creating win-back campaigns that are one-to-one personalized for that customer. So think about the old world is something, someone cancels a subscription. And if we're talking about a bigger brand, we're talking about probably hundreds or even thousands of people canceling subscriptions every given week, because it's just like a lot of like new customers churning and so on and so forth. And in the old world, that triggers some Klaviyo flow, or that triggers some sort of an SMS flow. But it's something like, hi Jay, I saw you canceled your subscription. I would like to offer you a discount if you want to come back. Or it's something super generic based on some sort of a variable, hi first name. That's like the old way of doing things. So what we see now, customers, and this is not like we see other brands do this with Siena. You can literally ask Siena, hey, can you find those customers, look into their entire conversation history with each individual customer, look into their Shopify orders, look into their subscription, which we're building now, subscription integration, and create a win-back campaign. And it's going to take a little bit of time. That is, think about it, in a non-Siena world, if you don't have Siena, that's probably going to take you, if you have like 100 customers, hours. Like you have to manually go and export customers, go see what they said. Probably more like days than.
And so because it has access to the ticket and the reason they canceled, you can tailor a win-back campaign. Like if they thought it was too expensive, or if they said in the email, I don't need this whatever product anymore, maybe it offers a different one. Is that the idea?
Exactly.
Like it's tailored by...
It's 100% tailored, and there's truly no limits in terms of what you can do, because again, we're talking about smart models. We're quite at the point where you can give them a lot of, like, let's say mental challenges, like mental tasks, and they can like compute and do the good work. But yeah, overall, you will see some pretty incredible things. Like I was just reading some of those examples of win-back campaigns. By the way, it also automatically knows the channel that this conversation happened over. So it's going to automatically create it for SMS. So it's going to be short. It even adds, without me even prompting it, like stop to cancel, that like legal language based on the previous conversations and so on and so forth. This all looks like a human has written it. Like once you read it, it's like, there's no way we can go back at like the old of like hi first name. I think that world is going away. And in the realm of CX data, I feel like this whole idea of, CX is a growth channel, or CX data or like customer data is the most important data. That's kind of like an aphorism that existed for the past 10 years, since even when I was running my own brands many years ago, it was like CX data is the most important data. But I think we're at the stage where this really is a reality. Like you can do things with it. What I love doing is really sitting down with brands and really sitting down with folks that are already so good at understanding how the data fits with an LLM. And it's all a matter of prompting, and it's all a matter of like creating these processes. So that's what I'm spending a lot of time most recently. It's like, okay, we've built an agent that can do support really well. And that is something that still needs a lot of like work to make it even better over time. But this new generation, what I think, whether we call it CX marketing or marketing in general, or just growth, that's going to happen as a result of connecting all those things together. I think it's going to be a wave that won't happen overnight. It's going to start slow, but once you unlock that, once you let the genie out, it's going to be impossible to go back at very basic flows.
Right. So is this live yet right now, or this is something it's experimenting with brands? Like
depending on when the podcast will
goes out. Yes, I know things move fast.
We're live. We're live with customers as we speak. It's not
okay. And so this is primarily is it also a tool that merchants can ask questions to about their customers, or is it you give it a task and it does it? Like, is it merchant facing or is it customer facing, I guess, is primarily the question.
So Siena, the support agent is customer facing.
Correct.
So
yes.
That is available across all the channels, including voice, including social media, SMS. This particular tool that I was mentioning, we call it Ask Siena because you're asking Siena something. That is an internal facing tool.
Gotcha.
So that's something that you as a operator in any department can interact with Siena, and it's going to answer questions. It's going to create reports. It's going to generate charts. It's really, the best way that I explain it to someone who's new, it's like Cloud Code, but for CX.
Yeah.
And even more than that.
And so for a Shopify brand, the reason why this is probably more valuable is it has, like, Shopify's got its Sidekick, but that doesn't have access to customer interactions. Like, that would be a data layer that's missing. Is that correct? Yeah.
Yes.
And I know Sidekick is quite limited. You can just ask it queries about your data and stuff, but it doesn't, like the example you just gave, create this win back campaign. I don't think it would do that. Where does Sidekick play in this? Is that, as it's starting to come up more and more with merchants, do you draw a line anywhere of like, okay, this is a good job for Sidekick, this is a good job for Siena?
The best way to think about jobs to be done and which AI to use for what, I think you can reduce it to what context does the tool have access to?
Right.
The underlying agent or the underlying model, probably most of companies producing or building these agents today are using a combination of ChatGPT, Anthropic, and Gemini. Maybe some of them use some like open source models. So the underlying models are, I would say, roughly the same intelligence level.
Yeah.
Sure, there's different frameworks of how to construct these agents, what tools to give them, and so on and so forth. But roughly, they all work in similar fashions and similar tools.
Yeah.
The only thing that really matters is the context that it has access to.
Right.
So I think Shopify's Sidekick is incredibly useful for anything you need in Shopify. If you need something in Shopify, that's your go-to. I think it would be unwise for a company like Siena to build something that directly or tries to replace what Sidekick is doing. It's like, well, sure, at some point we could build some tools that allows you to maybe make changes to your store and like do something a little bit more in that like web app kind of experience. But for now, we really started with Ask Siena as a way to first solve the hardest problem, which is this like conversation data piece. That is by far the data that is in abundance. There's a lot of it, but it's really hard to find a way to make it useful without blowing up your tokens. Again, you could export technically, you could hook up Cloud Code to your Zendesk or your help desk, export millions of data points, and then like ask it to like run something. But that will probably cost you a lot of money, and you don't really know what's going to give you back.
Yeah.
Truthfully, it took us quite a bit of time from the whole idea of Ask Siena to actually having it see in production, providing useful responses and very important accurate responses to the users that it interacts with. And it's a lot of heavy work that happens behind the scenes that you don't know about. So for someone who's thinking about, hey, how can I get smarter by understanding what customers are saying? I think we're the only company, or Siena is the only product that can do this today in a way that's connected to your ecosystem continuously. And again, this is a very much new product and it's up and coming, but the power that we're seeing with the first version is pretty incredible.
Yeah, that's amazing. I mean, it is, as far as I know, it's the best product for it as well too. Like, I don't think there's anything else really. I know different tools like Zendesk has their own version of some insights, but we use Zendesk, but it's very primitive.
Not
like
for long.
No, I know. Actually, yeah, no, it's in conversation as we speak. But okay, so if with Ask Siena, if you created, let's talk about like the win back campaign. How does Siena do some of the like messaging? You have to have it connected to Gorgeous or Zendesk or Intercom or some tool, or what does that look like?
Yeah, so we're building some of those channels natively. You'll see some channels being available inside Siena in the coming months. And for those that are already using a help desk, we can already reach out via the pre-existing channels, like your Gorgeous or Zendesk. So it's gonna be a model where we're designing. First and foremost, compliance is important. So if you're talking about something that's becomes more of a marketing thing, then that's a separate conversation. That's a separate, let's say, CX motion that we're looking to design. And then the channels will have to be, of course, we'll have to look at the marketing consent and all those things.
I guess also like Klaviyo or Omnisend or other tools like that as well too, potentially.
Yes.
Depending,
So from the beginning, our philosophy as a company was leverage the tools that already exist. So if we can generate this campaign and then push it to Klaviyo's or Omnisense or Attentive or you name it, then that's going to be our preferred way because that's the fastest time to value. Our goal is not to rebuild something that exists for many years unless we can do it better. The only caveat here is sometimes these tools, I don't want to call them legacy tools, but let's call them pre-AI tools. Some of these pre-AI tools, they may have actual physical or architectural limits that does not allow an agentic or an AI first tool like Siena to run its course and do these, let's say the one-to-one personalization. So as long as we can accomplish the delivery through a third party, we're
Right.
going to do that. Like we would much rather hook up to your existing stack and do that. When we hit a limit, we're going to be like finding ways to build this natively just so we can actually deliver in that experience.
Gotcha. That makes sense. What's something, I mean, you talked about like this idea that the support inbox is basically a focus group for learning about your product and your brand. What's maybe the most surprising business decision you've seen a brand make because of some CX interactions?
There's quite a few of them, and because we work so close with customers, we get to hear about them. One of those decisions that I always get back to, it's quite fun. It's a CPG brand that got onto, well, even before Siena Intelligence, we built our like early concepts and early prototypes. So they've been an early adopter from the beginning of all the various iterations of our product. At some point, they made this decision to build. So they sell CPG products, and the products are not super expensive, but they're not cheap either. They saw through Siena by looking at the support conversation data, is that customers were either abandoning their carts, churning, or requesting, actually like making requests for smaller samples of their product. So they were just selling regular size products that it wasn't like it's prohibitive, but also people just want to try. Especially if it's a CPG product, you just want to try it. You just want to sample it. You maybe don't want to pay full price. And that little nugget right there led to them basically they made this product decision to build for each one of their products a small, think about like a sample size version of their products. And they generated, this was happening a few months ago, back in 2025, and they generated millions out of
Wow.
those samples. That's sample products, not including the people that upgraded from sample
Amazing.
to the full product. And this is
And
all
that,
because they saw in the data that, hey, people are outright asking us, hey, can I try it in a sample? And what's amazing about Siena, it actually is able to even quantify to some extent. Okay, so there's 500 people asked this in the last 90 days. What if their LTV is this much over, this time? So, okay, this is the investment. And so, yeah, that's a real example that happened by looking inward at what customers are saying.
so what does that look like? Is there a dashboard of insights, or do you ask Sienna for details? Like, do you ask it questions, or does it find some of this stuff on its own and surface it? Or what's that experience look like for a merchant?
So we have a few options to interact with your data. One of them is your traditional dashboard. So we do have things like Trend Explorer, so you can see different trends. For example, you're able to take a look at we do on the backend automatic topic and subtopic clustering. So in the old world, you'd have human agents label a ticket. This is a cancellation request, and the reason is this. So you'd have to spend time and mental energy doing that. Plus, it's not accurate most of the time. So we're doing all that. That data is available for anyone to see in a very simple dashboard. So you can see the different trends. You can actually see resolution rates. You can see what are the topics that are being automated the most, what are the topics that are not being automated. So it's a hybrid between your full CX picture plus
So
Siena's own
basically,
support.
like themes, like if there's people have like breakage in a product, bad shipping, or
100%.
questions about order timing or whatever, you can see where the majority of the tickets
Yeah,
are, and then potentially dig into that and more.
exactly. Yeah.
Is
So
there
we
a
do in
specific
two.
theme? Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, we do it at two levels of fidelity. You do it in a bigger theme, as you said, and then you can actually go for each theme. We do subtopics, so you can go even deeper. So let's say you see a
Gotcha.
spike in refund requests. So
Right.
refund requests could be a theme or a topic, and then hey, this week or this month we're seeing a spike. Then you can click on that, double click, and then see exactly why. Like, what's the reason? Because Sienna was smart enough to figure out there's multiple reasons or there's multiple kind of sub themes or subtopics, and then you can keep digging.
Yeah. Is there any things that merchants find using this topic explorer that is always shocking? Like, you might think I don't know, sometimes we have blind spots as merchants and we overlook things, or we get blindness to the same questions. Like we talk about this all the
Yeah.
time. Like when you're in the weeds of something, you don't see it through a new set of eyes, right? Is there any like themes that consistently surprise merchants when they go into them?
Yes, there's always this reaction when we look at the themes, and you can look at it for like 7 days, 30 days, you can go, more than that. And then they look and see some sort of a spike, or they see some sort of a trend. And let's say that we're doing this live, like we're looking at the data live with someone who works in CX. It can be from a support agent to a VP of customer experience, and they're looking at this dashboard. And sometimes we see these reactions like, that makes sense. We knew
Mm,
about that, but the data was never there to support that argument. It's
mm,
almost like sometimes in a pre-AI world, what happens is for CX teams, they see some behaviors, they see some trends, but they don't have the data to quantify it. So
right.
they could be spending weeks or even months trying to prove something out, but no one is really going to like take weeks or months to actually track tickets, like tag them and like put them in spreadsheets. And so what this gives them, it's probably like in 5 seconds, look at that. Like we knew that returns are increasing, or we knew that returns requests have been increasing, and now we can see why. So you can go deeper, and in one click, you can go from that dashboard to actually asking Sienna,
Yeah.
"Hey, can you tell me more? What's going on here?" So that's always an aha moment where you can quantify something that you maybe felt or your team has anecdotally reported to you, like, "Hey, we're seeing more cases of this product being mentioned," or something like that. There's no real way to track it, and when you look at it in that dashboard, you're like, okay, now it's real. Like we can share this report with our operations team or our product development team.
So say I'm a supplements brand, average size, doing 5 to 10 million a year or something. What's a question I should be asking Sienna of my data? For sure I should be asking, what are like, or it doesn't have to be a supplements brand, but what is, can you give some advice on what the best, because often it's asking the right questions is the key, right? Like you can have,
Yeah.
data is not the problem anymore. It's, so what are some questions that brands should be asking it?
There's levels to this. So that's a great question. And there's levels, right? You can start off with pretty generic questions. One that I always like is take a look at my data. And of course, we have ways to build prompts in a more robust way, but just riffing here, I always like the idea of, hey, look at all my happy customers. So I will always do like, almost like a workflow based. So like look at my happy
Mm,
customers. What do they love more about what do they love most about our products,
hmm.
and why? So give me a
Hmm.
summary. Then I
Hmm.
will go into, hey, what's some constructive feedback? So look into what are they not liking as much. And then eventually I'll say, what are some of the biggest business opportunities for us? And you can replace business with what are some of the biggest product opportunities. So
Yeah.
so often like we've seen brands use CN intelligence as a way to do product development thinking, like, hey, okay, so we see these many customers asking about this. This is interesting. Oh, like we
Yeah.
never thought that we could actually just do this. So
Right.
anything that, you know, think about it, you have access to this, all of a sudden it's a gold mine. It's like a oil well. So you can dig for oil and oil comes out of it. The question is, how do you make this oil actually useful? If it just sits there and you look at the oil, it doesn't really do much. So you have to transform it into energy. What kind of questions can you ask? What are some of these like high leverage questions that you can ask? I would start with, what are we doing well? What can we improve? I also love this question. It's more of a, often you grind hard, you work hard, and you kind of forget, like, hey, you have an amazing community that behind you, and people love what you're doing. And this is, I think, quite challenging for many folks that are working in customer experience. Customer experience, for the lack of a better word, sometimes it equals just like people complaining. Not always, but you reach out to support because you have a problem. Very limited. I guess like the pie chart of people reaching out because they love the product is smaller. But I
Hmm.
also love to show what's possible when you ask Sienna to give you reviews, like, hey, show me some positive reviews. Or another use case that I love, and it's really helpful. And by the way, what's something really cool about this process, you can run it automatically. So you can just schedule it and run it once a
Mm,
day, once a week, once a month. So you don't have to manually always like type in what are customers saying. You can just develop your prompt, and then that can run on your own schedule. So one of them could
yeah.
be, hey, can you create a list of some of the best testimonials or reviews that my marketing team can use? And can you give me also the angle that my marketing team can use when it comes to that? So the cool thing about it is the system will know a few things. So it will know what products they reference. It will know the actual customer. it will know the review itself because it looks at review. And by the way, when I say review, it can be a social media comment, it can be an email. It doesn't necessarily have to be a review channel. It can come from anywhere. And it also knows the brand itself. So now you basically have given this AI a task to create a campaign based on customer voice or customer data. And that's also something that I highly recommend anyone. Like, hey, what are my loyal people? Like, what's my loyal audience saying about our products?
Yeah.
And it's really hard to have a bad day once you see that, hey, we have a lot of customers that love our product. Here's who they
Yeah.
are. Here's how much they spend. Even better, you can ask Ciena to create a personalized outreach campaign that focuses on something like, hey, you're a loyal customer because X, Y, Z. And then you ask Ciena to create that. So the whole idea of hyper personalization, how I call it, and in the past it used to be personalization, but now you can truly have these concierge type of experiences that you create for your most loyal customers because you know who they are, you know what they care about, you know what they said, and it's all through a simple chat interface. You don't have to like go between tools, stitch data together. So it's all in one place.
Have you heard of you probably have, of course, the 1,000 true fan concept?
Yeah, like when you start a company and like all you
Well,
need is
there's
to
this
reach.
there's that. It's a little bit different. Yes, there's get your 1,000 true fans, but there's this concept. I forget if you search it on YouTube, it'll come up with the guy that came up with the principle. But what a lot of brands do. This is what comes to my mind when I think of Sienna. Like a lot of brands, they try to solve for everyone. It's like people have different complaints, and they try to solve for all. Like I don't know. Say you sell a dog bed or whatever, and some people complain about one thing, some people complain about another, and you try to solve for anyone. But anyways, his philosophy was that find your true fans. And so you go to like the super users, like the people that are leaving 5-star reviews, the people that are going to bat for you on social media. Like if someone says something bad about your brand, they're the ones backing it up, they're the ones posting pictures, they're the ones referring friends to buy. Like you find your best customers and then you interview them. So Sienna could maybe help with this, but his approach is maybe you only have 17 of these customers. Maybe you have 5, maybe you have 50, but everyone has some super fans. Then you interview them and you learn everything you can about that customer. You learn why they bought it, exactly how they're using it. Because why do they love it so much? Why have they referred 10 people? Why are they raving it about on social? Why have they left 5-star reviews? How are they using it differently? What settings are they using the product in? Like, why are they such big fans? Understand them and then go out and find more people like them versus trying to fix it for everyone. And you end up kind of with this bland product. And then you get this, it's a little bit more of a narrow focused product, but it solves a very real problem for a certain segment. And then those fans become your growth engine, right? So my mind goes to maybe there's learnings you could get about like if you could find your true fans. So like find all customers that have ordered more than a certain amount of times, have left positive reviews, have done certain actions. Tell me everything you can about these customers because I want my marketing to get more of those types. Oh, what's your thoughts on that? Like to me, that seems like that would be something I'd love to try. I assume that would be possible?
Yeah, I mean, my wheels are spinning now because I'm literally thinking, wow, like how much of this is already doable with what we have today?
Right. Could call it the true fan module where
Yeah,
like, because that's what you want to build on top of. You always want to, I'll put the link in the show notes to that video. It's about a 10-minute video. I wish I could remember the person's name who came up with the concept right now, but I'll make sure it's in the show notes. But they look at like all these businesses, and the healthiest businesses are always built on top of their true fans, not trying to fix everyone's
yeah.
problem. And it becomes a mediocre product versus like a cat bed for people who have a certain type of cat or whatever. And it's like the best in the world at that or
Yeah.
whatever the product is, right? What does it look like? So, something that goes through my mind as I'm hearing all this is it feels to me like even if I have people doing customer support, like humans, I might still want to use Sienna because of the insights I'm getting from it. Like, how are most brands using it? Is it a blend of human slash AI? Do you have any that are doing like humans are still doing the support, but Sienna is this data layer that they can learn from? Well, like it feels like you're not trying to say switch your whole support to AI. It doesn't feel like that. Like how are brands, what's that mix look like?
Yeah. So we're seeing a wide range of models when it comes to how brands use Sienna and all of our different agents and all of our different products. There's biggest, by far the biggest chunk of our customers are using both. Or the support experience is powered by Sienna, and now the intelligence is powered by Sienna. And that's because somewhere in their leadership, somewhere culturally, they made this decision that, hey, we want to be as lean as possible and we want to be as smart as possible with what we do. That allows it's almost like you building the foundation, or like you're building, in this case, a plane. You want everyone to be on board, like, fly the plane and like go really fast. It's not just like, hey, we're going to build one room and then the rest is kind of like outside. So they love the idea that they can do both. And one operating principle that we share inside, like in Sienna, and I always say this: 1+1 = 3. So if you're really serious about running on AI, like becoming an AI native brand, it's of course easier and best to use both. But we also work with brands that have very complex systems in the back end where deploying these agents take a little bit of time. So it can take months until we actually reach a level of Sienna really being productive in your support experience.
Right.
So what we see is they already start leveraging the intelligence piece from day one, and they take their time to launch the support experience, because again, you have to connect different tools. Some tools are available out of the box, like your typical stack, your subscription providers, and then your obviously Shopify is available. But a lot of enterprise brands, they have very, very bespoke setups. So with those, they would kind of like stagger. So first we do intelligence because it's available day one, and then the deployment will happen over the next few months. And we do have a handful of folks that are using just Sienna intelligence for the time being, and they see value because your point is this intelligence layer that sits on top of what you already have. So we see a wide range, but the pie chart would most of this lean towards use both the support agent experience and use Sienna intelligence.
Gotcha. So you mentioned when you are setting up, you said something like as you get more comfortable with Sienna. So is that the typical on ramping? You have Sienna answering like 5% of tickets, then 10, then 15. Like, is that
Yeah,
how it?
it's a great question. One of the things that is unique about, I think, support AI in general is it really mimics the philosophy and the processes and the tool stacks of each individual brand. So sometimes I'm being asked, how long does it take to launch Sienna? It's really hard for me to give of course we can look at the average, but the average may not apply to you. So we've seen brands go live and have a productive AI agent that already resolves more than half of the support conversations in 2 weeks. And it's doing it better and more consistent in terms of quality than human agents. That's
Yeah.
another thing that's another thing that's available and possible with Sienna Intelligence to spin up a QA agent. So not only have your support agent, you can spin up and use Sienna QA as a way to QA not just Sienna, but your whole team. And then you can see reports. How is Sienna doing against humans, and how are humans doing amongst themselves? So we're completely replacing these pre-AI QA tools because everything is integrated. So that is very important when it comes to AI. The fun thing that it's like an interesting perspective is there's two types of agents in general. There's human in the loop and there's fully autonomous agents. Human in the loop, Cloud Code is a perfect example, or Claude, ChatGPT. It's an agent, it's an LLM that does some work, but at some point comes back to you and asks you, okay, do you want to continue? What do you want to do? So you're always constantly prompting that agent. The other type is fully autonomous. So Sienna and AI agent for support, if it's running on large language model, it's in practice fully autonomous. What that means is once you configure it in a specific way, once you train it, you give it tools, you give it access to what it needs, it will carry on the task fully autonomously with no human intervention. And for that, it's really important that when we deploy the agent, it really works. So we have extensive testing happen. We have built a lot of AIs and systems internally to make this deployment as fast as possible and as good as possible. But accuracy and making sure that the AI is doing the best work possible is incredibly important. And that's why, in the beginning phases of AI, there's a lot of companies trying to do AI for support. Like this is back in like 2023, 2024. There's like so many different players trying to do this. And if you look around, there's not that many that are still around because it's actually quite complex. So deployment can be a matter of days or weeks, or can be months. It can be truly months. And then there's another variable, which is how big is your operations in the backend already? Like how many different tools, how many different agents do you have, how many systems, how many brands you have? That's another thing. Like if you have multiple
Yeah.
brands, so all these, it's almost like different complexity knobs. We
Yeah.
now, when someone comes to us and we start a deployment process together, we already are pretty good at understanding complexity. We can estimate, okay, this is probably going to take a month, 2 months. Internally, we're quite aggressive around building more and more tools, more and more ways to make this process more seamless, more easy. But it also requires a lot of human judgment on the brand side. That's why one of the things that I always share as an advice is try to set up your goals, try to set up your structures so that it aligns incentives with deploying an AI and having an AI run in your company. If something like Siena, it's just like a cute pet project for someone and doesn't really have any real tangible goals or anything like that, we've seen these deployments fail in the past because no one really cared. Is it, oh yeah, like
Yeah.
we use AI, we have a chatbot, it's okay. It
Yeah.
is a very different mindset versus no, we need to reach this percent of automation rate in the next 90 days. Who's responsible? How do we work as a team to get there? And then everything works better once you have that sort of mindset.
Well, speaking of which, I think this was a case study somewhere. Hexclad increased automation 65%. I don't know if this is like outdated and maybe it's even higher now, but they cut tickets to humans by 20% in 60 days. So like they seem like obviously Hexclad is an amazing brand. They do a lot of things right. What did they do that was so great to get these results so fast that maybe other brands skip?
It all starts with the operating team. Who is in the driver's seat for getting Siena up and running? And specifically with Hexcloud team, they have an incredible team, and we work really close with a few folks there. And there's obviously an owner that oversees Siena, but their whole team is bought into AI. That they did. It's almost like like a domino. Like if the team and everyone is bought into Siena, is bought into AI, everything runs so much smoother versus if there's friction, if someone out there doesn't really believe in AI or feels like AI is just a crutch or it's just like a whatever trend or it's not going to work, you're never going to see incredible results. You're never going to see full deployments happen. So in the case of Hexcloud, they have really good team, incredible product, and they really care about both customer experience and AI. Those are, of course, the results of various different work streams and various different things that lead to that. Plus, they're
Yeah.
very good with sharing feedback. So back when a few months back, we Siena our video processing. So we're able to process videos, not only text, not only images. Siena can actually, you can upload the video and Siena will know what's in the video.
Yeah,
That
I saw you
also,
post that recently on LinkedIn, or you or Lisa posted it. So I understand. So a customer, if they're having a challenge, they can record either a screenshot of something on their website, or can they record a video of the product? Like it's
yeah,
broken here, this doesn't work, and then send it. And
100%.
Sienna can understand what's happening in it.
Yes.
Amazing.
Yeah. So you
Is that
can think about replacement, let's say you got this glass, you ordered some glasses and it's like broken here. Instead of just sending a picture to say, guys, hey, I got this, it's like all over the place, it's and that. And then Sienna will, just like a human, interpret that video and make a judgment call. And that's another reason why Hexcloud was able to increase their automation rate. They, of course, the pens are highly, they're very tactile. You have to show like, hey, there's like this little bit of a scratch here or whatever,
yeah?
something's happened here. So video has helped them and us quite a bit with just making Sienna even more powerful.
And then I guess the $1 million question: can it detect if it's an AI created video? Because apparently everyone's just making images and videos of their products broken to get a refund these days. I imagine it can. Is there ways to detect?
The best way to think about image and video processing is if a human could, the AI could as well. Sometimes
Yeah.
maybe even better. Sometimes maybe even better. There's no, I mean, not today. There's not like a built-in watermarking system or something like that.
Mhm.
But who knows? In the future, I would say, high likelihood that the AIs will get better at understanding if the video is generated with AI. We do see Sienna working really well with fraud cases. Like maybe in this case, it's not a video, but it's an image. Someone generates like a fake image of a product that's broken, right? I don't want to like retrain the AIs, but you could quite easily do that. We've seen customers use it and they don't have problems. Like you can
Yeah.
absolutely like, you can catch
Does
some of
Sienna
those.
have any insight if a customer is a bad actor on one store? And then on your store, do they have any intelligence on that, or do you keep a fine line?
So that's a great question. We're working on a few really interesting things. I'm not able to fully share the extent at which this is going to be available and when, but we are working on another intelligence layer with a new product that we're building that will have, if you use that product, you will automatically enroll your customers in this cross brand, of course anonymized, but it will be almost like a watchdog. So you'll be able
Right.
to see,
If a
hey,
customer has submitted 17 returns with over here, yes.
yes. And then we actually see a lot of input signals from brands trying to find ways to combat fraud by either telling Sienna, hey, look if they initiated multiple returns, look if they used in the past multiple addresses, right? Because what they do, they would always change their addresses or like use, Shore Street or like N dot Shore Street. So there's all these things that people got really creative with. I think the good news here is you'll be able to do a lot more with AI that you can with humans, just because
Yeah.
AI has infinite attention. Like, it just works in kind of like it can work in parallel with millions of customers if it happens. So yeah,
Right.
we're looking at ways to bring these sort of inputs like fraud detection and stuff like that. It will be more and more important. Yeah.
What are you most excited about for Sienna for the next 12 months? So if I have Lisa on again in 18 months or so, looking back, like what you can say, what are you excited about for where Sienna is going and what the future looks like?
There's this point in time where we realize that we can really, our actual constraints as a company have almost disappeared overnight. And this wasn't the case a year ago. We had many constraints. We still have constraints. We specifically don't want to raise a ton of money, or we don't want to go the path of like just keep raising for the sake of raising. So we have constraints, but in terms of what we can build and where we can go and where we can take our customers, it almost vanished. And then there's a few really interesting projects that keep me up at night that get me really excited. One of them being the whole idea of building your brain inside Sienna, like building your company brain inside Sienna. We're about to launch, depending again when this podcast goes out, we're building Sienna Docs. And what Sienna Docs really is your brain inside Sienna. Not only your brain, but so everything internal, your SOPs, your documentation. So think about replacing your Google Docs or your Notions or Gurus of the world. And on top of it, you're also building a help center inside Sienna. So it's a single place to have all your data. And why this is exciting is because for the first time, an AI agent like Sienna, or multiple agents in this case, don't exist in an external world where, hey, you just spoon feed it like a little bit of data here, a little bit, but in fact it will sit on the data that your team runs on. And we're planning integration with GitHub. So we really lean 100% into how do we make Sienna the first true operating system for CX that's connected to your cloud code, it's connected to your data, and everything is in one place. That is incredibly exciting. And if you're familiar with skills, like what we're building is a repository of skills. So you can now use all the use cases that we talked about in this podcast. You can basically package them, put them in a skill, put them in a playbook, and have your whole team run on it. That's pretty exciting. It opens up the world for so many new things, even, things like, hey, we're launching a new market. Hey, Sienna, we're launching a new market. Can you check our current policy? What's your current returns policy? Hey, so it's going to check your website. It's going to check your help. So it's going to check your internal docs. It's going to check the actual agent guidance. So it's going to say, okay, this is where we're at. Can you now create a policy for the UK or for Europe? So everything is in one place. You don't have 5 systems that are not talking to each other. They just live in a complete silo. Everything is now unified by Sienna in the back end and in the front end. And that's really exciting because it means you can get even more insights. You can do even more with AI. And it opens up a platform essentially to build on top of Sienna. So that's quite exciting among all the things that we're building.
Amazing. And I imagine as you expand to different internationally, Sienna can interact in different languages and you can maintain your docs and SOPs in one language and it can then interpret
100%.
however. Yeah. Amazing. Just before we end here, is there like brands listening want to look into Sienna? Like, do you need to be a certain size of store? Do you recommend it at like once a store is at a certain level? Is there a path for anyone to get started, or where would you recommend stores start with Sienna and how do they get started?
So how to get started? Sienna, SIENA.cx. So single line, Siena.cx, book a demo, get in touch with our team. We pride ourselves in just trying to learn as much as we can about you and see if it's a good fit, if we can help you. Where Siena starts to make sense for a brand, we have different agents. So first of all, we have different agents that do various different things, and more agents are going to come online. But generally, if you look at your customer conversation data, so not just support tickets, but this includes social media, this includes review. If you're already processing over 2,000 to 3,000 a month, probably it's a good time to think about it as, and it also depends on how fast you're growing. If you're growing incredibly fast and you project that you're going to 10x or 10x, reach out as soon as possible, because that's the success story that we've seen with this brand. They reached out when they were growing. They're not as big as they are today, but they're growing. So it was just the right time as they were on their growth trajectory. So yeah, if you're growing fast,
probably something to be said for if you are getting 1 million tickets a month, it's a lot harder on a growth trajectory. It might be better to get ahead of it early and then scale with Siena versus bringing it in later. I would imagine that's an accurate statement, right?
It can be, but not always, because with the tools that we have in place right now, even if you're doing 1 million tickets a month or 1 million tickets a year, we can see what those tickets are about.
Fair enough.
And then we can kind of like proactively, we can be one step ahead. We don't have to, back in the day, you have to manually swift through tickets. Even for us, when we launched it, you have to manually like check what people are saying just because there was not enough fidelity of data. But now we can just ask Siena like, hey, run an analysis over the last 30 days. What are the main topics? And then, you start training the agent as more like you're working backwards from the reasons that people reach out the most. So tools are here. We're excited. We're excited to work with brands that have strong opinions about how they think CX should look for them. But also we're here to share what we see other brands do. We work with brands that are doing billions in dollars, and we work with brands that are doing $20 million a year. And we have this knowledge and we have this experience of seeing all across the board what works, what doesn't. And the one constant that doesn't change is the faster you start, the better.
Yeah.
And it's a mindset. Like, it is totally a mindset. Also, it's important to start, but truly try to go all in versus just try an AI and like, it didn't work. But we're here and we're excited to learn more and share about automating your CX, but also building your intelligence layer.
Yeah, amazing. Well, I think, in my opinion, in 5 years, maybe sooner, because things move fast, maybe a few years, this will be the norm. I think every brand will be augmenting CX with AI or fully using AI in some way. So I just think for brands listening, get ahead of it now. Like, now is an opportunity to move faster than your competitors. I think when new technologies come out, it's always great to jump on them because it's a competitive advantage now that might be table stakes in 5 years, but now it's a competitive advantage. So Siena is, I think, probably the best platform I know to do this. So definitely check them out. Siena with one N, because I have accidentally typed in 2 N's many times. Is that domain for sale? Can you buy it, or is they won't sell it?
Well, we have a host of domains, out of which I think, I'm not sure if Siena with double N.cx is. Well, I actually have to take a look.
Okay, but we'll make sure it's Siena with 1X. Check them out. Andrei, thank you so much for your time. This was a ton of fun.
Thanks, Jay. Excited.